Hey there folks, this is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop. Ever since Colin Trevorrow revealed that he had an extended version of Jurassic World Dominion, a number of you have asked me if I was excited for it. I really couldn't be because I didn't see a big difference being made by 14 additional minutes, 5 of which is the prologue that we already saw in IMAX over a year ago. Still, Trevorrow has made it clear that this is the version that he intended for us to see in theaters, but the studio wouldn't allow it to be over 2.5 hours, so he had to trim it down. So I turned on the full 2-hour, 41-minute version, telling myself, okay, this is still going to be a bug movie, no way around it, but I'll keep my fingers crossed that there are 1 or 2 small improvements that will please a die-hard Jurassic fan such as myself. And well, if you already liked Dominion, the extended cut may slightly enhance the experience for you. If you were as disappointed with the movie as I was, the extended cut won't change your mind on anything. The most major change to the movie is that the prologue is put back in at the very beginning, which in turn truncates the Mosasaurus scene and moves it to the end of the Now This segment. I won't get too deep into my thoughts on the prologue, as I already have a video on it from back when I saw it in IMAX. Oh man, look how excited I was back then. I noticed that for a lot of fans, simply restoring the prologue would instantly make the movie better for them. But for me, that alone was not going to cut it. I was honestly fine with the prologue being released early online in place of the first trailer. In fact, I saw this as a really good new marketing method, cutting down a bit on trailers in favor of a bonus short story that leads into the movie. Seriously, I think other film studios should take notes. When Trevorrow gave a rundown of things we'd see in the additional footage, saying that there'd be more of dinosaurs in our world, I instantly saw right through it. I thought, it's either going to be more of those little found footage style videos that we can easily see on the Dino Tracker website, or he's just talking about the drive-in sequence that we're already well familiar with. And lo and behold, it was the drive-in sequence. And honestly, having that scene at the beginning really just adds to the bait and switch, making us think that it's indicative of what the whole movie is, and it isn't. Heck, they even included that scene in the first trailer, even though they knew full well at that point that it wasn't going to be in the movie. Having that prehistoric sequence in there too also just amplifies the blow of disappointment we get when, after the T-Rex loses to the Giganotosaurus 65 million years in the past, she still kinda loses in the present. There is one little extra piece of context to the final battle that we get in the extended cut. As the helicopter lights are waving over Roberta while she's lying there unconscious, there's a blink-and-you-miss-it frame, I had to rewind and pause to make sure I saw it right, of little quills appearing on her snout and ancient trees appearing in the background. I think what's being implied here is that Roberta is experiencing genetic memory, which is a phenomenon that Dino Tracker brought up as a possibility. Now, if this was solely Roberta's victory, this would have the potential to make the fight even more satisfying when we know that it's gotten personal for her.
How did you figure it out?
Because you've killed me before.
Then I guess I'm just gonna have to do it again.
But all that comes from it is her getting up and making one move, pushing the Giga into the claws of the Therizinosaurus. I will mention a few of the arguments that are out there in defense of the final battle's result. Some view it as sort of a statement that fans of both scaly dinosaurs and feathered dinosaurs can get along. Others have pointed out that it's another sort of yin-yang situation, 2 opposing forces working together, in this case carnivore and herbivore. And I can definitely see both those points of view, but from my point of view, if you're going to make this yet another dinosaur scene that doesn't further the story at all, at least give us the satisfaction of our T-Rex coming out on top on her own for once. Most of the additional scenes are quite early in the movie. One is Owen's first meet with Rain Delacourt, where he gets Owen and the 2 DFW members to hand over the Parasaurolophus they wrangled up. The scene does give justification for later in the movie when Owen says that the leader of the poachers is a real heel, but it goes a bit overboard in hammering in the idea that this section of the movie is meant to feel like a Western. Now, if I'm okay with the genre shift in Fallen Kingdom, I'll be alright with the genre shifts in Dominion based on location in the world. But when it gets so on the nose as to include a scene where both sides draw their guns on each other in a Mexican standoff, that's the point where I'm like, okay, stop. There are a few more short scenes with Macy, one where she hears Blue in the woods as she's bike riding into town, one where Owen gives her a lesson in how to win a knife fight, and another in which she goes into a store and the cashier asks if she should be in school. She replies that she's homeschooled, and the cashier says, "And where is home?" I guess the idea here is that the cashier recognizes her from the news and is hoping that she's dumb enough to give her address. None of these scenes really add anything, so I can easily see why they were removed. On a side note, it was as I was watching this movie again that I realized you can tell that it was written before there were any plans for a Macy Lockwood book series set prior to it.
That's what people do.
How would I know what people do? The only people I've spoken to in the past 4 years are you both.
You remember Violet and those 3 other friends of yours from the campground? Not to mention Sheriff Reg. I think they might want to have a word with you. You could say that she was being hyperbolic out of her frustration with Claire, but you'd think that'd be the sort of thing that Claire would respond to with, "That's not true." But from what we've read in the book so far, it seems that Tess Sharp is doing a better job following up on the story of Fallen Kingdom than Colin Trevorrow did, so it's an inconsistency made by the books that I'm willing to forgive. For now, at least. There are a few extra scenes involving dinosaurs that also don't add much. There's like a mere 20 seconds of these 2 hunters going after Beta after she attacks the wolf, and Blue retaliates, charging toward them in the franchise's 4th use of slow-mo. Or is it the 3rd, since in the extended cut this comes before the Pyroraptor leaping out of the ice, but the theatrical cut came first. There's a 1-minute scene at Amberclave Market where Kayla Watts sells some guy her Lystrosaurus, which he puts into a fighting ring where it decapitates an Oviraptor, leaving the body waddling around like a chicken. We definitely didn't miss anything important with that removed, and it really just reinforces the fact that you can cut almost every dinosaur scene from this movie and nothing about the plot would change. Some of the extra bits are so brief, though, that I don't see why they bothered removing them. Like a few seconds of Claire running through some clotheslines to get away from the Atrociraptor. After the Apatosaurs are escorted away from the town, there's a single shot that I'm pretty sure wasn't in the original cut, correct me if I'm wrong, of that one construction worker that Macy spoke to turning to watch her leave. One that I know wasn't there before is at Amberclave when the Allosaurus snags a guy in its jaws and throws him across the room. And this wasn't its own shot, it was the first 3 seconds of a shot that was in the theatrical version. If I remember correctly, it started with the Carnotaurus roaring at the guy who rolls over the fire pit. Was 2 hours and 27 minutes the exact limit that Universal had set for the movie, so Trevorrow had to shave off just 3 more seconds? There are a couple of scenes where I'm a little more indifferent to their inclusion, like Owen and Claire examining each other after they make their escape on Kayla's plane, and Ellie Sattler showing the 2 kids at the farm her field sequencer. As well as the part at Grant's dig site when those 2 girls show him the T-Rex photograph and ridicule his decision to keep digging. I was able to get the idea just from seeing them on their phones not paying attention in the theatrical version, but I guess this scene does make Grant's introduction a little less rushed. We also get a small extension to Grant and Sattler's conversation in the tent, talking about Sattler's articles on algae and whatnot, which is fine by me because it's just more time with the 2 of them together. It's quite amazing all the mixed emotions I get from this movie on repeat viewings. One moment it'll be Alan and Ellie talking about their work and where their lives have gone in the last 20 years, and I just get lost in the moment and completely forget that I don't like this movie. But then it cuts to Alan observing the locusts and Ellie telling him that the swarm is going to collapse the food supply, and just like that, my attitude switches to,
"Nobody cares! Nobody cares!"
I will say, there is one additional scene that I legitimately like. It's when the Hyperloop is shut down, and Macy is reluctant to venture into the cave and would rather stay in the bulletproof tube. Alan persuades her to think again, saying, "I know how you feel, it's scary, but it's better to move forward than to stay in one place. And Ellie Sattler here is the ideal person to have at your side when you take that next step." It's very emblematic of the change that Grant goes through, but it's a scene I like, not because it fixes anything or changes my outlook on anything, it just reiterates something that I already liked about the movie. I was hoping for at least an addition like a better explanation of how Macy's origin gels with what we were told in Fallen Kingdom, or maybe some extra context that makes the Barbasol can more than just a cheap memento. Or another scene at the end with all the heroes together, because we left them very unceremoniously. I mean, Malcolm just disappears from the movie after everyone boards the plane home. The new scene that I think makes the biggest difference for people who liked Dominion is one with Ramsey and Dodgson that explains what the initial purpose was in manufacturing the Locust and why Ramsey and Dr. Wu were in on it. But it was as I was watching the extended cut that it hit me. Ramsey's role in this movie pretty much defeats the entire OG cast's reason for being there. He's the orchestrator of this plot to expose Biosyn. He tells Malcolm, who tells Sattler, who then goes to Biosyn to collect the DNA sample from a locust. But if Ramsey is like Dodgson's second in command, what does he need Sattler or Malcolm for? Why not just collect the DNA sample himself? If he didn't have the equipment for it, couldn't he have just leaked some files or something? But he can't do that, because if he did, half the movie is erased. I should mention that someone on Twitter asked Colin Trevorrow why he would ignore the interesting development of dinosaurs cohabitating with humans in favor of the boring locust plot, and Colin responded quite vaguely. Honest answer, I wanted to make a film about genetic power and its consequences. The extended edition is a more balanced version of that story, but for those who feel Cretaceous-era insects don't belong in the franchise, there's nothing I can do. We all take our swings. Now, on one hand, I can applaud Colin for being diplomatic and acknowledging that you're never going to please everyone. But still, this response raises more questions than it answers. Start with the most unimportant thing. It was my understanding that those insects weren't straight out of the Cretaceous era. I'm pretty sure the movie made it clear that rather they were the result of regular locusts being fused with Cretaceous genes. But anyway, the real question that comes from this is how he could have possibly thought that this was a swing worth taking. In regards to the notion that those bugs have no place in the entire franchise, I think what Colin is missing here is that the idea of the locust itself is not really the issue. In-universe, it's nothing that far-fetched. It'd be fine for a spin-off or something. The problem is that it objectively brings no resolution or remedy to the themes, ideas, or character beats that the prior two films introduced. Colin says he wanted to make a movie about genetic power and its consequences, which is essentially what the entire Jurassic story is about, and the dinosaurs are a direct consequence of genetic power. Their emergence in our world is the fallout of playing God one time too many. Fallen Kingdom had that amazing premise set up, along with these character arcs regarding how Claire, Owen, and Macy are going to find liberation in this new world, because they each did play a part in bringing it to what it is. Why is none of this addressed? And why in the blazes would Dr. Wu's redemption be about locusts instead of everything that he had a hand in that led to this global dino crisis? At first, it seems that Dominion is going in the right direction because it opens with that Now This segment that asks all these questions about what we do now that the dinosaurs are here, and yet the movie never goes on to answer any of them. Though granted, Now This is a garbage news source, so I guess we're supposed to just not take those questions seriously. It really makes me wonder, did J.A. Bayona really have more influence on the story of Fallen Kingdom than Colin Trevorrow initially intended? Like, was Colin's plan for Eli Mills to be in cahoots with Biosyn, so he was to have the dinosaurs transported to their sanctuary so Dodgson could use them for this big experiment? Maybe this was, pure and simple, just another Last Jedi Rise of Skywalker case, even though Bayona wasn't credited as writer for Fallen Kingdom. But if that was the case, then I frankly wish that the reins would have been handed over to him completely. So overall, the extended edition really didn't help anything, and now that I've seen the full version that Colin Trevorrow intended for us to see, I can now make this official. Jurassic World Dominion is my least favorite film in the Jurassic series. Yep, I do prefer Jurassic Park 3, because even though, yes, it does correct JP3's poor decision in splitting up Grant and Sattler, it doesn't compensate for the numerous baffling decisions that Dominion makes itself. Focusing on bugs after building up a planet of dinosaurs is the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas. Sure, there are things in it I can appreciate, like Grant and Sattler coming back to each other, The Malta sequence is cool, Claire's escape from the Therizinosaurus is intense, and of course Jeff Goldblum is a national treasure. But as someone who wanted a faithful continuation of the ideas and character beats in Fallen Kingdom, rather than one that tries to fix things in that movie that don't need to be fixed, as well as someone who wanted a story about dealing with dinosaurs in our world as promised, or at the very least, a story where dinosaurs have more importance than just showing up every now and then just to spice up the action, Dominion left everything to be desired. So, what did you think of the extended edition? Did it make the movie any better or worse for you? Did it not make a difference at all? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments. That pretty much does it for all my thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion. There is one more video I want to make regarding it. It's not about anything in the movie, it's just something else that I feel I need to get off my chest. That's a wrap, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop.